So today we are out and we're going to have a little go at doing an exercise to help with our lining and ultimately to help us build towards eventually achieving blind retrieves. So this is very much foundation work, but what I'm looking for is to get her confident in following my line and where I'm pointing, confident running out in a nice straight line, and starting to build some distance on that. And I'm actually going to not do any retrieving work whilst we do this exercise today. Sometimes I would, but today I'm just going to be using my trusty little white poles as a target. Couple of reasons. One, I don't want to do so many retrieves that she gets bored or that things start to get sloppy. So by being able to do lots and lots of repetitions with just a target post should hopefully help us build these behaviours up nice and quickly. And also we are still having a bit of work on her delivery, so this means that I don't have to worry about that aspect of the retrieve chain. I'm just focusing on the nice clean straight run out aspect. So we'll give it a go and see how we get on.
To start out with for this session, I just had the one post out and we just do a few repetitions of lining her to that post from different locations and slightly different distances. And we've obviously already got some foundation work here. So in the last couple of weeks, I've been training this behaviour to go around the post. So to teach the behaviour, I started out by just luring her around the post with some food in my hand. After a few repetitions of that, I removed the food from my hand and used the same body language to get her round. When she was doing that nice and reliably, I introduced my cue, which is round. And then I gradually started to adapt my body language to where it is now, which you'll see is like I would have it if I was lining her for a retrieve. And to start with, I was doing that while I was stood directly in front of the post, and then as it was becoming more reliable, we started to add some distance to it. And the distance that you want to work to with this sort of exercise is very much going to be dependent on your dog and the role that you want to play with them. So with Ivy, she's a Spaniel, I intend her to go in the beating line and maybe do some Spaniel tests, but we aren't ever going to be doing 100, 150 yard blind retrieves. It's just not the role of a Spaniel, it's not the role that we're going to be doing. So for me, I was really happy with these sort of distances, and if we can get a 40 yard blind retrieve, I'd be over the moon with that. But for someone with a retriever, you might want to stretch these distances a lot further. Now, because she's shown me nice and comfortably that she can achieve this behaviour with just the one target post out, I've now advanced it on. So we've got 3 posts out, 2 that are directly in line with me and Ivy and 1 out in front. And what I'm doing is I am setting her up and lining her towards the post that I want her to target. So you'll see I get in position to line her, and what I'm looking for when I line her is that predominantly her head and her eyes are looking in the direction that I want to send her, but ideally I want the tip of her tail all the way to the tip of her nose to be in a nice straight line in the direction that I'm sending her. I then have my hand down by her head, although I've seen some people have their hand above the dog's head. I think kind of whatever works for you, although I think it is important that your dog can actually see your hand, otherwise they're not really using it to help line. And then I try and stay as still as possible when I give the verbal cue to go round. So the reason I do that is because I don't want the dog's attention to be distracted by me kind of flicking my hand, which I see a lot of people doing. So I stay statue still, and the cue to go is the verbal cue. So that seemed to work well. She followed the correct line on each occasion and showed that she could go around each post. She is a little bit distracted during this session in between repetitions, so I'm going to do one more exercise and then call it a day. So here you'll see that I have got 3 posts all lined up in a row in front of me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line and send her again to each post that I select. Now this is a lot harder because the angles that we're working at are a lot more acute. So before there was kind of a 90-degree angle between each post, so it was easier to get success. Here that angle is probably halved, so she really needs to be following the right line in order to target the correct post for this exercise. And what I'm looking for with all of these repetitions is that I'm getting a nice clean straight line out to the area that I'm asking her to go, which I am. I'm getting a confident run out, and I'm also getting a nice confident run back to me. So I click her just as she turns around the post, and in hearing that click, that is building up a lot of anticipation for her because she knows she's going to get rewarded, which encourages that charge back to me, which I think is going to help us with our retrieves and prevent us being in a position where you get some dogs who charge out super fast for a retrieve and then kind of plod their way back. So hopefully this will also help keep drive in the return to me as well as the run out. So another successful repetition there on what I think is probably the hardest post, because she's got kind of all 3 posts in her eye line where she's charging out. So then we did one final repetition and called it a day. But I really like this exercise because the retrieve has so many different individual behaviours linked together. I think it's really useful when you can break them down and work on them individually. So the other day we worked on steadiness and I shared a video of that, so that's the first part of the chain. Here we're working on that second stage, working on that lining and that run out. And then the pickup, the return and the delivery can all be dealt with separately. Particularly if you've got a dog that's not keen at retrieving, or you've got issues in part of that retrieve sequence, this is a really useful way to continue progressing your training whilst you work separately on fixing whatever those issues are. And if you're interested in finding out some more about lining or blinds and how you can work on it, Jo Laurent, who does the Hold the Line podcast, has done some good episodes on it recently, so I definitely recommend you head over and listen to some of her stuff. I will put some links to her in the notes below. But that's everything for now, so if you have any questions, as always, please pop them in the comments, and I hope you enjoyed.